Hello, role-playing people, and in this episode we're taking a look at the lore of patterns, the ability to detect whether a certain type of scenario will occur in the near future, the ability to trace back the forces and agents that led to a certain event, the ability to read fate in the immediate temporal frame, furthermore to read the causes that lead up to an event that hasn't yet transpired, and finally to manipulate the flow of time within a certain area. Using this lore, the House of Spheres and Fates could read into the grand design and detect potential issues in the cosmic balance before they actually happened. Malefactors, for instance, always regretted that they weren't treated with more patience so as to refine matter to perfection, so that tells us there were indeed some imperfections in creation, at least from the subjective point of view of some of the houses. Now, because the flaws of a multidimensional, multi-layered creation that executes apparently repeating motions in accordance with innumerable patterns might not be immediately visible, the fourth house can predict how both the mechanism as a whole and its individual pieces will work and where they will be after a certain number of cycles. These are the angels who set the cosmos in perpetual motion and then needed to fine-tune that motion to be precise, repetitive, and perfectly ordered. That being said, this is the house which created time, where time is the quantifiable duration between repetitions of similar cosmic patterns and cycles in a loop that was intended to be perfect and everlasting, but we all know things didn't really work out as such. Before we begin, it must be said that I will be reading the corrected versions of Evocations 1 and 5 because both made no sense and the player's guide errata corrects them. So if you hear something that isn't quite like in the core rulebook, don't worry, I'm reading a version of the text that includes the errata. Let's go! Sense Congruence. This evocation allows a fiend to sense localities or people that are at the heart of a convergence of consequential forces. By reading the forces at work in the grand design, the fiend can use this power to always be in the right place at the right time. System. Your character must specify what kind of event she tries to detect. For example, the invocation of a summoning ritual or a car accident. And you roll perception plus intuition. Your character can sense the pattern a number of days into the future equal to her faith score. The number of successes determines how much information the fiend receives. 1 shows the location where the event will occur, but not when or how it will occur. 2 successes show the location and give an idea of when it will happen. 3 successes show where and when the event will occur, as well as images of the people involved. Torment. Monstrous demons are able to use this evocation to search only for impending events of violence and destruction. Fantastic! This power is fantastic, but so much is left unsaid and the examples are so vague. Certainly, accidents happen every day worldwide, but the character doesn't want to detect all accidents all over the globe, because that much visual information and knowledge of tragedies that might happen would probably send the protagonist's torment skyrocketing and drive them mad. So the phrasing needs to be more precise than saying, I want to detect accidents or summoning rituals. The fiend senses localities and people, so the search needs to be narrowed down and specific. For example, I know Jane hasn't been doing so well at work. She's got this huge evaluation thing coming up. Will she lose her job? Or, will my car be involved in an accident within the next couple of days? And phrasing things as such, giving the storyteller precise input makes way more sense and is just much more helpful. Examples abound. Will Sylvia's blood tests cause her distress? Will anyone be physically harmed within the confines of this apartment? Will Julia get that raise she's been hoping for? And a classic, will there be any summoning ritual in this city within the next couple of nights? Etc. Not only do you get the answer on a successful roll, but with enough successes you get to see where, when, and who is involved. So this is particularly useful when evoking this lore to, say, determine whether a jewelry store will be robbed or not, because you can actually see the robbers' faces, and Demon the Fallen being the game it is, you can either stop them or let them do it and blackmail them for some easy money. Now, the High Torment version says monstrous demons can only search for impending events of violence and destruction, but personally I would ask for a conscience roll every time a low torment character is intentionally looking for atrocious tragic events, and if they know these events will happen and do nothing to stop them, they automatically gain a temporary point of torment. Think about it, with enough successes, the character sees the scene playing out before their very eyes, a vision of horrible, horrible things that will happen to the mortals they were sworn to love and protect, unless they interfere. If they don't care, if such suffering is irrelevant to them, then perhaps the character is more tormented than they know. Next dot. Trace pattern. This evocation allows the Fiend to view a particular event and analyze the various forces that caused it to occur. This insight comes in the form of vague impressions that sharpen into detailed images as the demon devotes her unblinking attention to them. System. Your character must be at the location where the event in question occurred to work this evocation. Make a perception plus intuition roll. The number of successes rolled determines how detailed the picture of a particular event is. One success depicts the immediate circumstances surrounding the event. 2 reveal a few minutes preceding the event. 3 successes might take the demon back a quarter of an hour to give a broader idea of the forces leading up to the event. Torment. Monstrous fiends can attempt to trace any pattern they wish, but they can focus on only sources of violence or injury that pertain to the event. Again, fantastic evocation. You walk into a room or any place where you know a certain event has happened, anything of significance. You have a look around, and based on the signs, you take a mental stroll back in time and see the who's, the how's, and the why's, reconstructing the whole scene depending on the number of successes. Amazing! This is why members of the House of Spheres are such valuable allies. This is why their services are undoubtedly sought out by any fallen who knows a fiend, because not only can they keep you safe by warning of future danger, but they can dig up dirt like no other house. They out-Sherlock Sherlock Holmes. I love the fact that they need to be on location to make use of this power, and also that they need to know which event they are observing, so they can't just go somewhere and mindlessly walk back in time just because they can without a clear goal. Now, Fiend NPCs might use this power in conjunction with their other house lores to get dirt on the player characters, and of course they can use the first dot of this evocation to make little predictions about the protagonists, which, if their intuition serves them correctly, might put them a few steps ahead. It's very difficult to outmaneuver someone who kinda knows all of your moves. Next dot. Foresee. This potent evocation allows the Fiend to read the tides of fate in her immediate area and predict events and actions that are about to occur. System. Roll wits plus intuition. The evocation takes effect for a number of turns equal to the successes rolled. This evocation protects the Fiend from being taken by surprise and takes the character out of the normal initiative system. As the other players and the storyteller announce actions in initiative order, you can interject your character's action at any point during the turn. Torment. Monstrous demons are less interested in viewing the subtle shifts of patterns as they are in inflicting misery on their victims. The duration of the High Torment version of this evocation is a single turn, but each success gives the demon a free dodge action that can be used against any attacks directed at the Fiend, regardless of her own initiative. Okay, the first time I read this evocation, I misread it and I thought it was just bad. Now, certainly, if we're talking initiative, turns, and free dodge actions, we're talking combat. so you can just tell this evocation was intended for use during combat scenes. However, this doesn't mean you can only use it during such scenes. It's actually a very powerful evocation, allowing a player to insert their protagonist's action at any point in initiative order. Your protagonist's action is declared in response, but always happens before another character's action, right? Because actions are declared from lowest to highest initiative, but happen from highest to lowest. This can lead to very awesome moments in which, say, an antagonist has one of the protagonists just set up for the kill. They have all the advantages, higher initiative, the works. And in comes the Fiend with a combat maneuver that completely disables that antagonist, robbing them of their turn, probably doing some serious damage while also saving their companion. Really nice. The High Torment version is also worth it. For each success, it gives a free dodge action on any attack directed at the Fiend, and while success on these free dodge actions isn't guaranteed and needs to be rolled for, the character can still perform their desired action and also defend without reducing their dice pools, which is great. What I don't like is that this evocation seems limited to combat, but I see it working very well in any instance in which the character needs to respond quickly and in a calculated manner in order to diffuse a situation before it gets worse. The description says Fiends can't be taken by surprise while this power is in use, so personally I'd allow successes on clever and well-timed uses of this evocation to add extra dice to certain non-combat actions, like throwing a snappy comeback that makes people's jaws drop during a social provocation, or during a car chase when the Fiend seems to know exactly where the other vehicle is going to move and how it's going to maneuver. It's a great evocation, but as written in the book, it seems to be limited to combat use, and I think it could have done more in other contexts as well. Next dot. Causal Influence. A Fiend can use this powerful evocation to gain insight into events up to several days in the future, and depending on her intentions, she can home in on which causal threads she must affect to achieve a desired result. It's worth noting that this power provides the demon with information only. It's up to her or her pawns to shift fate in her favor. System. This evocation can be focused on a specific person, difficulty 6, place, difficulty 7, or upcoming event, difficulty 9. Spend 1 faith point and roll perception plus intuition. The number of successes rolled determines how many days into the future the Fiend can view regarding her subject. It also determines how many questions the player can ask the storyteller about what the character sees. The evocation fills the Fiend's mind with a torrent of images showing the most likely fate of a specific person, place, or event, barring any outside interference. The storyteller describes the course of events as though the demon were an outside observer. She isn't privy to the thoughts of the individuals involved, and she must decide the context and meaning of relationships and actions alone. As the player listens to the storyteller's description, however, she can ask specific questions about why a particular action happens the way it does. This can provide clues to the demon that she can then use to influence the situation. For example, say a demon wants to observe the fate of one of her thralls. The player rolls perception plus intuition and gets 1 success. She sees the events of the next day in the thrall's life and sees that he will be hit by a bus. Since the player rolled 1 success, she can ask 1 question of the storyteller. Why does the bus hit the thrall? She then gets an image of the bus driver moments before the accident and sees that he is distracted by one of the passengers. Armed with this information, the demon can decide how she wants to try to affect the outcome according to her desires. Torment. Monstrous demons use this evocation to gain insight into the dangers surrounding an individual and how to manipulate these risks to cause injury or misfortune. The high torment version of this evocation shows the fiend where the subject, be it person, place, or event, is at risk of suffering an accident or other misfortune, and it shows the best way to cause the tragic circumstances to occur. In the example with the thrall and the bus above, the high torment version of this evocation provides the same images, but the vision of the distracted driver indicates what must happen for the tragedy to occur. Because it's often difficult to tell the difference between a viewing that warns of tragedy or that hints at causing one, the storyteller has the option of making the perception plus intuition roll on the player's behalf, presenting the information and letting the player decide what to do with it. I've said it many times, I'll say it again, Demon is a collaborative experience, and I think this power illustrates that beautifully. All of these evocations actually, because the information the storyteller offers depends a lot on player input and intent, but also the player's future actions and responses depend a lot on the storyteller's input and intent. Phrasing is important. Details can make all the difference. Successes on the roll also make all the difference, and I love how the game sometimes forces the storyteller to improvise and cough up information when a character uses these evocations successfully. But if used in a collaborative manner, if the player doesn't pressure the GM and always uses these powers in a meaningful way that tells a story, it doesn't feel like a chore and it doesn't feel difficult or disruptive. I just think there's also some irony there, because the player's choice to use this evocation on a particular person might be done in a spur of the moment or on a whim, and the storyteller needs to offer information as if that person's fate has already been written and is being read by the fiend, you know, as if nothing is improvised. Ha, the cool little things Demon does. So yeah, I think this power is awesome, and it can lead to amazing stories and scenes of action, drama, and the hope of either changing someone's fate or sealing their doom. But it can also reveal nothing spectacular, because truth be told, fate isn't always that dynamic or interesting when seen from the outside, is it? Why, if a fiend read my fate, for instance, in absence of life-threatening events, and I hope their absence is prolonged to eternity, what they'd see is a guy who has one coffee each morning, goes to work, has a good time there, comes home after work, does chores, plays bass, keeps writing his new episode on the lore of patterns, plays RPGs with friends once a week, records the episode and uploads to YouTube, goes skating or on long walks with his significant other, and visits his parents on the weekend. Obviously, to me, these things are awesome, I love doing them. But from the outside, they probably couldn't matter less to anyone. Tricky thing, fate. Alright, next dot. Twist time. This powerful evocation allows the fiend to alter the flow of time within a small area, shifting it out of phase with the rest of the cosmos. The fiend and anyone else within this bubble of distorted time may act faster or slower than the normal flow of the universe. System. Spend 1 point and roll stamina plus intuition. The difficulty is determined by the effect the fiend wishes to achieve. If she wants to speed up time, everything within the bubble moves faster than the world around it, the difficulty is 7. If she wants to slow time, everything within the bubble moves slower than the world around it, the difficulty is 8. If she wants to stop time, the outside world freezes. In relation to the bubble, the difficulty is 9. The number of successes determines how many turns the evocation lasts. When the evocation is in effect, nothing and no one inside the bubble can interact with the world beyond, and vice versa. To the outside world, the demon and everyone within the bubble simply disappears. Within the bubble, actions may be taken as normal. Objects and individuals can exit the bubble or be forced out, in which case they return to the normal time stream. If the fiend herself exits the bubble, it collapses, returning the time stream to normal. Outsiders who enter the bubble's space do not join its altered time unless your character wishes it. The maximum amount of temporal distortion is determined by a multiple or factor of the character's faith score. For example, if the Fiend performing the evocation has a faith of 5, she could choose the distortion to be as great as 5 to 1, 5 turns for every turn spent in the bubble, or vice versa. The bubble is centered on the Fiend and has a diameter in yards equal to the character's faith score. Once created, the bubble does not move. Torment. Monstrous demons use this evocation to hurl unsuspecting victims out of phase with the time stream. To the victim, the experience is instantaneous and horrifying, a momentary brush with the void between realms that leaves terrible scars on a person's sanity. The evocation affects every individual within a number of yards equal to the character's faith score. Demons can resist the effect by making a resisted roll using their willpower with the difficulty equal to the Fiend's torment. Victims knocked out of phase disappear for a number of turns based on how fast or slow time passes in the bubble compared to the outside world. When they return to the normal time flow, victims lose 1 temporary willpower for each turn they were out of phase. If this loss reduces their willpower to 0, victims suffer a permanent derangement. Ah, Chronosphere, how lovely you are. So, assuming the character has a permanent faith rating of 3, the Chronosphere has a 3-yard diameter. They can bring in or exclude anyone or anything they want from this sphere in which time flows differently, and they can observe those outside but cannot be observed by them. It is here that things get tricky because, again, the duration of this evocation is measured in turns equal to successes rolled. That being said, the actual duration of this evocation depends on your storyteller and context. One turn might be 3 seconds long, such as during combat, or it can be 3 minutes long. Within the sphere, you can make time move faster, slower, or expand it continuously, effectively freezing time outside of the sphere. Why would you make it move faster? Well, this is going to be a silly example, but please bear with me. Say you forgot to bake a pie for someone's birthday and you need it done in 15 minutes, but it needs to bake for 30, so you don't have enough time. If you create a chronosphere which includes your oven and time flows faster inside, then you can effectively bake the pie inside the chronosphere at a 3-to-1 turn ratio, thus getting it done in less time. If you're being pursued by an angry mob, you can slow down time within the sphere, so 1 turn in the sphere is 3 turns outside. While inside, you'd be out of the normal timeline, observing your pursuers as they look for you and eventually leave, because they find nothing. Then when the coast is clear, you can return to regular time. Now, while time is frozen outside, you can set up an ambush, set up explosives or traps. You can throw multiple thrown weapons that basically freeze as soon as they exit the sphere, but they will resume their acceleration towards the targets as soon as the Fiend also returns to the regular timeline. And last but not least, the characters can just take a break. In any situation, they can step outside of regular time flow, take a break, talk strategy really quick, make a plan of action, then go back to the normal time and put that plan into action. Very nice. A lot of my players asked why the Fiends can't turn back time, and I think the fact they can't do that is actually very consistent with the use this lore was intended for. When they set the universe into motion and thus created the pattern known as time, it wasn't designed to go backwards. That's why fixing potential issues in the great cosmic mechanism is done by predicting outcomes and preparing for problematic events accordingly, not by going backwards in time. Certainly, the flow, the volume of time, if we can call it that, can be altered, and just as water can be frozen solid, time can be stopped. But it will only flow forward because that's how it was originally created. Taking that into consideration, I think this evocation is very nice. Let's have a look at the apocalyptic form next. Ninsun, the Visage of Patterns. The angels of the Great Pattern have skins of indigo. Their hairless bodies are covered with intricate lines and patterns etched in silvery blue light that shifts and realigns depending on the angle of light and the intensity of the angel's mood. Their eyes are like bright sapphires casting the cold light of the stars. The Visage of Pattern confers the following special capabilities. Wings. A pair of swan's wings extends from the character's shoulders. At full extension, each wing is a third again as long as the character is tall. The character can glide up to 3 times her running speed per turn. Improved Initiative. The character adds 2 to her initiative. Enhanced Intuition. The character's uncanny insight lowers the difficulties of all intuition rolls by 2. Enhanced Mental Acuity. The character receives the following bonus traits: +1 Intelligence, +1 Wits, and +2 Perception. Torment. Monstrous Ninsun lose their indigo hue and become as black as the void. The patterns covering their bodies take on the color of quicksilver, and their eyes are nothing but empty globes of darkness. An extra set of spindly arms gives these demons a distinct arachnid appearance. The Visage of Patterns confers the following high torment special capabilities. Aura of Misfortune. Any individuals caught within a distance in yards equal to the demon's torment score suffer a botch on any roll of 1 or 2. Extra Actions. Faith points can be spent to gain extra actions in a turn at the rate of 1 point per action. These actions occur in order of descending initiative. So if one of the Ninsun with an initiative of 7 gains an extra action, she takes her normal action at 7 and her extra action at 6. The player must decide to purchase extra actions at the beginning of a turn before any other actions have been taken. Extra Limbs. The demon grows a second set of arms. Extra arms allow a character to parry or block close combat attacks without sacrificing her own attack, or to make up to 2 additional attacks of her own per turn, which are considered multiple actions. Sibilant Whispers. The difficulties of all subterfuge rolls decrease by 2. Lovely! Using both enhanced mental acuity and enhanced intuition means the Fiend increases the dice pools of most of their evocations by 2 and decreases the difficulty by 2, which is seriously good. Once they reach the 3rd dot in Lore of Patterns, the improved initiative becomes less important since they can just get their actions in at precisely the right moment, but I must say I especially like the high torment forms. Those extra actions and extra limbs can pack an amazing punch during combat, and those sibilant whispers coupled with Aura of Misfortune make interacting with tormented members of this house a very memorable experience. So there we have it, the Lore of Patterns, evocations that allow your protagonists to always find ways of interacting with the story and the world, obtaining valuable information and being able to predict both trivialities that are of no interest to most people and great events that have a serious impact on everyone and everything. Before ending this episode, I do want to say I've seen players tempted to reveal to others their fates. Oh, look, you're going to get a promotion, or ha, I already know where you're going on holiday. And I honestly think this isn't something most fiends would do. In a lot of mortal myths and legends, oracles either speak in ambiguous riddles or influence others into a certain fate, but they never state what is going to happen outright, because doing that has a very high chance of altering that particular version of the future. So while I do see the more humane and caring fiend calling someone and saying, please just call in sick today, I can't tell you what this is about, but I'm begging you to trust me and not go to work today. I just have a really bad feeling. I see them doing that, but not describing the details. Because reading fate is something that is reserved for this house alone. It is reserved for those who are strong enough to not be broken and immensely troubled by that knowledge. If your average person were to find out that everything they do can be predicted, like their story has already been written and can be read like a book, I think it would hurt humanity a lot. And I think ill-intended fiends would definitely use this as a manipulation tool, right? They'd make people afraid of the idea of future disaster, whether they really saw that future or not. They might say, "Oh, I have seen you die. Unless you serve me, unless you do this for me, and in doing it, you will be released from that fate. You can escape fate and prolong your life if you take another's," and so on. So I think tormented fiends would resort to these tactics, and they would weave almost impenetrable webs of deception, control, and frightening visions of a future that might or might not actually happen. For this reason, as antagonists, as monstrous earthbound, they scare me the most. The idea that anything you might do, regardless of how wise and spontaneous it might be, has already been foreseen by an evil entity who wishes nothing but to enslave you. That's just horrible. Thank you very much for listening, and as you have already foreseen, my fiendish listener, in the next episode we will be taking a look at one of the lores of the Defilers. Which one could it be? Take care, have fun, and don't forget to play.